Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and everyone you know is gone. Your family, your friends, the people who bring you food, the people who protect you, the people who know where the water is. Nobody attacks you. Nobody argues. Nobody even says goodbye. They simply point toward the horizon and tell you to keep walking. No second chances. No appeal. Just you. Alone. Today, that sounds survivable. You could find a road, call someone, walk into a supermarket. Ancient humans had none of those options. Being banished from your tribe wasn't just a punishment. For most of human history, it was almost a death sentence. Which raises an obvious question. What could possibly be so serious that your own people would choose to send you away anyway? The answer isn't what most people expect. It wasn't laziness, it wasn't being annoying, and it usually wasn't breaking some written law, because there were no written laws. Instead, it all came down to one invisible rule, a rule every human society still follows today, whether we realize it or not. Let's go. First, we need to understand something about ancient humans. They didn't survive because individuals were strong. They survived because groups were. A single person struggles to hunt a large animal. A group surrounds it. One person gets injured. Others carry them. One person knows medicinal plants. Another knows where the rivers flood. Another remembers migration routes from 20 years ago. Knowledge wasn't stored in books. It was distributed across people. Every member of the tribe carried a piece of civilization inside their head. Take away enough people, and the entire system starts collapsing. That's why anthropologists often describe humans as one of the most cooperative species on Earth. Not the strongest, not the fastest, the best at working together, which means anything threatening cooperation threatened survival itself. Now, imagine food is scarce. Winter is approaching. Children are hungry. Your group finally kills a large animal after 3 exhausting days of tracking. Everyone depends on that meat. Then one person secretly hides the best portions for themselves. That isn't just selfish, it's dangerous. Because trust is the currency keeping the group alive. Once people stop believing food will be shared fairly, cooperation begins falling apart. And once cooperation disappears, the tribe follows shortly after. This is why food sharing appears in nearly every hunter-gatherer society ever studied. Successful hunters rarely keep everything they kill. They distribute it. At first glance, that seems strange. After all, they did the work. Why give the meat away? Because next week, they might come home empty-handed. Someone else succeeds. Someone else shares. Generosity wasn't charity. It was survival insurance. Now imagine someone repeatedly refuses to participate. They eat everyone else's food, but never contribute, never gather, never hunt, never help. Modern economists call this the free rider problem. Ancient humans solved it much more directly. Groups tolerated bad luck. They rarely tolerated chronic exploitation. Because every unnecessary mouth consumed calories, the group couldn't afford to lose. But here's where it gets interesting. Research on modern hunter-gatherer societies suggests banishment was actually quite rare. People didn't throw each other out over small conflicts. Why? Because losing a tribe member also hurt the group. Every adult represented labor, knowledge, protection, experience. Expelling someone carried a cost, which means tribes only considered it when keeping that person became even more dangerous than losing them. So, what kind of behavior crossed that line? Repeated violence inside the group. Constant theft, refusing every social obligation, creating conflicts that threatened unity, or perhaps the biggest one of all, destroying trust. Trust is one of those things people barely notice until it's gone. Imagine sleeping beside 20 people every night. You close your eyes knowing everyone around you could harm you while you're unconscious. Why don't they? Because your survival depends on believing they'll protect you instead. Now imagine someone repeatedly proves they can't be trusted. They steal, lie, assault others, ignore group decisions. Suddenly, everyone sleeps a little worse. Hunters hesitate. Parents become anxious. Arguments spread. One person's behavior quietly infects the entire social system. The punishment wasn't only about justice. It was about restoring confidence. Now, here's something surprising. Humans may have evolved emotional systems specifically to prevent this outcome. Take guilt. Nobody enjoys feeling guilty. It feels awful. But think about what guilt actually does. It pushes you to apologize, repair relationships, make things right. That's incredibly useful if losing relationships means losing your tribe. The same applies to embarrassment. Why do we hate public humiliation so much? Because throughout human evolution, reputation mattered. A damaged reputation reduced cooperation, reduced mating opportunities, reduced protection. Your emotions aren't random. Many evolved to keep you socially connected. Now, let's talk about gossip. Today, gossip gets a bad reputation, but anthropologists often describe gossip as one of humanity's oldest survival technologies. Imagine living without police, without courts, without written records. How do you know whom to trust? You talk. Who's reliable? Who shares food? Who lies? Who becomes violent? Information spreads. Not because humans enjoy drama, although sometimes they clearly do, but because knowing someone's reputation protects everyone else. In a way, gossip became the tribe's background security system. Now, here's a question. Could someone survive alone? Technically, sometimes. Realistically, rarely. A lone human faced impossible odds. Finding food alone is harder. Staying awake every night becomes impossible. One injury ends everything. One illness becomes fatal. Predators target isolated animals for a reason. Isolation creates vulnerability. Humans were no exception. Even today, studies consistently show that chronic loneliness affects physical health. Blood pressure rises, stress hormones increase, immune function weakens. Our bodies still behave as though social isolation is dangerous, because for most of our history, it was. Then there's another mistake, one that's easy to overlook: ignoring experienced elders. Modern societies often value innovation. Ancient societies valued memory. The oldest woman might remember where water remained during the last drought. The oldest hunter remembered which valley flooded every spring. Someone who survived 5 famines knew things no young adult possibly could. Ignoring accumulated experience wasn't just disrespectful. Sometimes it was fatal. Now, think about leadership. Ancient tribes rarely looked like modern dictatorships. Many hunter-gatherer societies relied on influence more than absolute authority. Leaders persuaded. They coordinated. They earned respect. Someone constantly refusing every collective decision didn't just challenge one individual. They weakened the group's ability to act together. Imagine half the hunters going left, the other half going right, because nobody agrees anymore. The deer escapes. Everyone goes hungry. Unity often mattered more than being technically correct. Now here's the fascinating part, that ancient psychology never disappeared. Look at social media. People still fear public rejection. People still care about reputation. People still apologize after embarrassing mistakes. People still feel excluded when groups reject them. Brain scans even show that social rejection activates many of the same neural regions involved in physical pain. Your brain processes exclusion almost like injury. That isn't poetic, it's biological. Because your nervous system still thinks exclusion might threaten survival. It evolved in a world where, for a very long time, it actually did. Which brings us back to the title. What was the one mistake that could get you banished from the tribe? It wasn't breaking one specific rule. It was becoming someone the group could no longer trust. Someone whose presence endangered cooperation more than their absence. Because the tribe wasn't protecting feelings, it was protecting survival. Everything. Food sharing, storytelling, raising children, defending against predators, crossing rivers, surviving winter, depended on one invisible force. People believing they could rely on one another. Lose that. And everything else begins falling apart. The remarkable thing is that modern civilization often makes us forget this. We imagine humans as independent individuals, self-made, self-sufficient. But beneath the phones, the cities, the supermarkets, and the electricity, your brain still carries the instincts of someone who survived because other people stayed close. The fear of rejection, the relief of belonging, the discomfort of breaking trust. Those emotions weren't invented by society. They built it. Because for hundreds of thousands of years, the most dangerous place a human could possibly be wasn't the middle of the forest. It was outside the circle, alone, watching your tribe disappear into the distance, knowing that every step they took away from you made tomorrow a little less likely.